Welcome to BCRF Zoom. I'm Margaret Flowers. We're joined today by BCRF investigator, Dr. Fabrice André. Dr. André is the 2021 recipient of the AACR Outstanding Investigator Award. This award is given to investigators who have made significant contributions to the field before the age of 50. And Dr. André gave his award lecture at the recent San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium. Fabrice, thank you so much for taking the time out of your hectic schedule to join us today, and warmest congratulations on the Outstanding Investigator Award and your many, many accomplishments that led to that. I'd like to begin by just asking you to briefly introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about the kind of research that you do.
Thank you, Margaret. So my name is Fabrice André. I am medical oncologist by training, and I work at the Institut Gustave Roussy in Paris, France. So my work is about personalized medicine. So what does it mean? It means that we are trying to find the right treatment for each patient thanks to molecular analysis. So our research focus is really to identify in each patient what is the marker that will define a specific sensitivity to a specific therapy, but also a specific toxicity to therapy and also outcome, with the aim to have a comprehensive analysis of the biology of cancer to decide about the right treatment.
That's really exciting. So your presentation, your award presentation, really focused on how this molecular characterization or tumor profiling, how this and precision medicine have evolved. Can you tell us a little bit more about, when we talk about molecular characterization, when we talk about tumor profiling, what do we mean by that? And how should we be thinking about precision or personalized medicine in 2022 and beyond?
So let's start from the beginning. What is a cancer? So a cancer is growing because some mutation in the DNA occur, and when we analyze these mutations in many different cancer, we can see that each cancer does not have the same mutation as another one. So this is the pillar and the rationale to think that we should analyze in each patient what are all the molecular profile to give the right treatment. So now, if we look into perspective and daily application, in patients with breast cancer, we had two important applications of this concept that are the analysis of HER2, that is a protein overexpressed by cancer cell, and the expression of estrogen receptor is what we call hormone receptor. So these two molecular analyses are done in daily practice and define whether the patient should receive endocrine therapy, chemotherapy, and trastuzumab. So this is the starting point of precision medicine in patients with breast cancer. In the last 5 years, new markers have arrived. For example, now we are doing the determination of mutation of BRCA. So BRCA is a mutation, is a gene that can be mutated. And when it's mutated, there is accumulation of mutation. And then there is another gene that is PIK3CA. So these two new genes are associated with sensitivity to new therapies PARP inhibitors and PI3 kinase inhibitor. And then we are thinking next. So what is happening next? What is happening next is trying to really model the biology of cancer in each patient. And for this, we need two different research. First, we need research on technologies, because we need new technologies to analyze the molecule, the molecular profiling of each cancer, to make a kind of ID card of the cancer. And we need new method of analysis like artificial intelligence. And really the aim in the future is for each patient to have a kind of virtual cancer or avatar of cancer where we can analyze all the different molecules and we can say, oh, this molecule is abnormal and it's specifically this molecule we need to target. And for this, new technologies are coming, and our research in our group is to take advantage of these new technologies to better characterize the cancer and identify what are the therapeutic targets in each patient.
When we think about the technologies that we have available to us that allow scientists to identify mutations in individual tumors, not all of those mutations may be informative to the treatment to that patient. So for instance, mutations happen all the time. And as you mentioned, once you have a key mutation in breast cancer, many other mutations may happen, but they might not be driving mutations, or they might not be targetable by drugs. So how does the field go about identifying the mutations that really have clinical implications and that are valuable to precision medicine and treatment decisions? And I think I'm getting to the results that you also presented at SABCS on the SAPPHIRE breast trial, where you looked at different categories of mutations and found that not all of them really informed the right treatment for patients.
Margaret, you perfectly describe what is the problem. The DNA of cancer contains important information to understand why the cancer is growing. Nevertheless, we have a problem because we don't have the tools to interpret the DNA alteration and to really identify the right mutation. So what did we do to address this question? So we did a prospective clinical trial. The name is SAPPHIRE-02. SAPPHIRE-01 was the feasibility. The SAPPHIRE-02 aimed at addressing two questions. The first question is it useful for the patient with metastatic breast cancer to have a determination of DNA mutation? It's what we call sequencing. And the second question was, what should be the tool to interpret these results? It's important to say that this clinical trial was supported by Breast Cancer Research Foundation. It was a very large trial in France, 1,462 patients, 7 years duration. And so it was a huge effort. What are the results? The results are telling that it is useful for patients with metastatic breast cancer to receive a sequencing of the DNA. So this is clear. Nevertheless, when we perform a sequencing of DNA, we need to interpret the results with some specific tools that colleagues have developed, including colleagues at Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson or in Europe at ESMO. And this tool is telling the doctor and the patient what is the expected benefit of hitting the gene that is mutated. And this is extremely important. Why? Because currently, most of the sequencing effort, most of the genomic report do not interpret this mutation and do not report with the mutation with the ranking system. And in this SAPHIR trial, the trial clearly showed that you need to rank the level of evidence of each mutation if you want to get a benefit from the sequencing. So we think, but of course we are biased because it's our trial, but we think that this is an important trial because in terms of concept, is telling everyone that any patient in the world should receive a sequencing of DNA. But it's also telling what are the characteristics of the mutation that are useful for the oncologist and the patient. Not all mutations should be taken into account. And what we are showing here is we are showing utility of the tool, the informatic tool that classify the mutation.
What I'm hearing, Fabrice, is that we're at a place now where it is important for patients with metastatic breast cancer to have their tumor profiled, and that the information from that can direct the right treatment to that patient. If there is a targeted treatment that pertains to a specific mutation, reports that come from these tumor profilings don't necessarily categorize these and say this is important, this isn't important, and that doesn't necessarily add more information. It may in fact add more confusion. And so the tool that you used in the SAPHIR breast study was, as you said, a bioinformatics tool that looked at evidence that was available for the different mutations and kind of set them in different tiers. And your study showed that there are only those that are in the highest tiers were informative for treatment. Is that correct?
Exactly, Margaret. And this is important because it means that when a mutation is lower tier, there is absolutely no evidence of taking into account the existence of this mutation in the decision. So it's the first trial that is telling the oncologist that is proving the utility of what we call a kind of clinical decision supporting system. You know, so far, between the technology and the doctor, there is nothing in between. This is why precision medicine is so difficult. What this trial is showing is that between the technology, DNA sequencing, and the oncologist and patient, we need something between that explain the oncologist and the patient which mutation they should take into account and which they should not take into account. So it's a system to support and to inform the decision to administer a therapy.
Well, this really is an important finding. And I know that our audience is going to be really interested in kind of having a sense of where are we in terms of being able to bring this into, real-time management of breast cancer. What, how far off is this in terms of, being part of the management of breast cancer to be able to identify mutations and connect those with specific treatments?
Okay, so Margaret, let's think globally, worldwide. What are the three tools we need to have precision medicine in 2022? First, we need DNA sequencing. So we need machine and infrastructure that allow to sequence, to analyze the DNA of cancer. Theoretically, this is not so expensive. because the cost of the sequencing now has dramatically decreased. So it should not be expensive. Second, we need this tool to interpret the mutation. And these tools are available. It's open access. Example, the OncoKB from the Sloan Kettering is perfectly available. And this tool is going to allow interpretation of the sequencing. And then what we need are the drugs, because it's totally useless to tell a patient, look, this mutation is important for the growth of your cancer, but oh, we don't have the drugs available. This is the worst situation. Okay, so theoretically, we have everything in the countries where there is reimbursement to put in place this precision medicine. It's much more difficult in some countries or some, I would say, social situation where sequencing is not affordable or the drugs are not reimbursed. But theoretically, the three tools, sequencing, interpretation of sequencing, drugs, are available right now. What are the questions? The questions are two questions. First, how can we add new drugs that are driven by genomics? And this is the field of clinical trials trying to validate the efficacy of some drugs matched to genomic alteration. And the second question in the field of precision medicine is, how do we go beyond the DNA sequencing? So DNA sequencing is the analysis of DNA of the cancer. Where we are going now is the analysis of the protein, but also more and more to grow the cancer ex vivo and to analyze in this ex vivo cancer, in this avatar of cancer, to analyze what are the molecules involved in cancer progression and what are the sensitivity of this ex vivo cancer to the existing panel of drugs. So this is the next step of precision medicine, is moving beyond genomics in what we call living system. We grow the cancer of the patient outside, and we understand from this ex vivo cancer which molecule we should target in each patient. Some clinical trials have already started on this question.
Well, it's so exciting to really realize the progress that we've made, and the pace of technology is dizzying, but it's just fueling these advancements. But what I also hear is that we still have a lot of work to do, and that's why research continues to be so incredibly important. And Fabrice, before I let you go, and I thank you for acknowledging BCRF supported the SAPPHIRE study, but could you tell our audience just a little bit about how BCRF has impacted the work that you're doing and your own career?
So Margaret, I don't have words that are strong enough to thank BCRF, because so first, BCRF is acting globally. This is extremely important for people to know, because research is global. There are extremely good researchers in France, in UK, of course in US. So, and what BCRF is funding is excellence of research globally. So this is something important. For me, it has totally changed the way I do research, because first, it allowed me to structure a team, a group of people. And we all know that if there is no group of people, we cannot do research. So it has allowed me to create a group of people with which we can have long-term projects. Second, it's important because BCRF, of course, has an evaluation every year, but is also committed on the long term. And as we all know, research does not deliver in 6 months or 1 year. So it's very important that BCRF supports on the long term the scientific programs. And we just discussed this clinical trial. 7 years of effort to finally answer a question that will impact the patient. So this is extremely important. And the last point is the fact that the research supported by BCLF is diverse. It means 1 year, I can fund some experimental biology if I need this year to focus on it, but the year after, again, pending good evaluation by the scientific committee, I can switch to clinical trial. So it's important because it's the continuum of research. You know, you can start from experimental biology, you make a discovery, and when you want to move to clinical trial, it's always BCLF that can support you. So this is why it's a unique modality of funding, because usually funding is just, you know, what we call a kind of one-shot funding. I fund you for 2 years for a very specific project. Having, I would say, an organization that supports you on the long term allows you to put in place a vision. And this is what we need in cancer research.